Fred, in your work in quantum mechanics and in your thought, how do you view these so-called extrasensory perceptions?
Well, it seems that quantum mechanics itself is fundamentally extrasensorial. So maybe I'm perceiving its extrasensoriness. I also have trouble with ESP, with the data, because it's not as conclusive as I would like to see experimental data.
Sure.
It's such a difficult area because we're dealing with an area which is bordering into the subjective. We're dealing with the area of mind, and it's very hard to objectify mind. That's the whole problem we have. That's why I think the whole materialist view towards mind is taking us in the wrong direction. And in some ways, the people doing ESP, I think, are going towards the materialist bent in order to satisfy what these guys want experimentally, and they're losing what could be found.
What you're saying is that people who believe in ESP are trying to conform it to a materialistic world in some way, by scientific repeatability, whatever they need to do that.
Yes, and I think they're in danger of not really letting the new field emerge. It's not going to emerge in the objective materialistic realm, because we're dealing now with a realm which is very commonplace in, let's say, in indigenous tribal regions, but is very unusual in Western culture. So I think we need to learn from the realms where such behavior as extrasensory perception is considered normal rather than abnormal, and we can learn from that. For example, in Tibetan culture, they deal with tokus and they deal with tulpas, which are images that are created in the mind such that when one person is concentrating on the image and another person comes into the room and sits and meditates, the same image appears in that person's mind, and then they can discuss afterwards and they say, yes, I'm seeing what you're seeing. Now, come on. Without any verbiage going on to indicate, or any pointing, or any kind of signaling going on.
So most scientists today would take all of that indigenous activity as folklore, as a group psychology, as illusion, delusion, some sorts of artificial things, not to make fun of the culture, but to understand that as science progresses, those things diminish and eventually wither away.
But the point is, they haven't diminished and they haven't withered away. The point is, they've been with us for thousands of years. The thing that seems to be diminishing and withering away, if anything at all, is a materialist philosophy. I see that vanishing. I can't see anybody really seriously holding on to that much longer, because quantum physics, relativity theory, string theory, brain theory, it's all pointing to an abstract world which cannot itself be found to be physical in the sense of what we mean by physicality.
So you would look at all this ESP stuff as something that is only maybe a small part of a very much bigger picture.
Exactly, a much bigger picture. And one picture that as scientists should be fun to investigate, because it's not easy to investigate, because we try to fit everything into the same peg hole. And if they don't fit, we say it's not worth considering. The most fundamental of this communication is not a mental-mind communication. It's not a communication of verbiage or a communication of formulae. It's a communication of heart. It's a communication of sympathy. It's a communication of something which is deeply felt by all of us, because we share a commonality of being human.